All right, here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown!
Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. Of course, coming to you from BB's Market, of course, as we do each and every Friday as we move the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios mobile unit out. Welcome in, Dustin Schutte. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a Friday. I had my tunes blaring, ready for the show. I'm fired up. How about you?
You betcha, man. It's Friday, so always ready. Brought to you by our good friends, powered by Andy Moore Honda. For the best in new and used vehicles, make sure you go to andymoorehonda.com. And, of course, Endeavor Hospitality's Wild Club and their wealth of family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area, including great places like BB's Market here, which soon will have the Butcher's Cut, a new steakhouse on the other side. Looking forward to that. Lots to get to. Of course, Indiana has a game coming up tomorrow at home as they host the Illini. Last night, Purdue lost their second game in a row, which no shock. That was a place that I said if they were going to get another loss, it was going to be at Maryland because they have not lost in the Big Ten. And that was Indiana's opportunity. Unfortunately, Indiana did not take care of business themselves against Northwestern the other night. And then the Indiana women, they get a great win as well as they roll over Michigan. That is their third straight win over a top 15 team in the country. That is their ninth win over a top 25 team this season. That is the tops in the country, people. So Indiana cruising to a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, probably the number 2 overall seed if things continue the way they are right now. It's going to be interesting what happens in the Big Ten tournament. Of course, they can go to Iowa, and if they were to lose at Iowa, that I do not see that affecting their seeding one bit. But we'll see. So congratulations to them as well. What's up, Dustin Schutte?
Not much. You talked about in the opener. First of all, Indiana little on-air nose blow there. As we were talking about with Indiana women, like the way they play basketball is just so beautiful. It is. I'm just gonna say, whether you're a high school guy or girl, watch them play games. The way they play the way you're supposed to play basketball. It is fun to watch. They move the ball great. They have great team chemistry. They don't try to do too much. They are one of the most fun teams to watch in the country, men or women, this season. That is,
they really are.
Terry Morin has done an incredible job with this program. She built them up from absolutely nothing into a perennial power. It's going to be hard for them to continually get the type of players that they have on this team now, just because that's hard to do at any level for any program, whatever the case might be. But I don't see this. I think this Indiana basketball program is going to stick around for a while. So just a major shout out to her. That team is, it is appointment television. And the way that fans have showed up at Assembly Hall for the women's team this season, the way that the Big Ten Network is covering not just Indiana but all women's basketball, it has been awesome. And I put this tweet out last night. It got a little bit of traction, not a ton, but we are fortunate because there are great matchups. I'm not saying the Big Ten's the best league in either men's or women's basketball, but we get phenomenal matchups, it seems, every single night in this conference. So enjoy it. There's only a few weeks left of the regular season on both sides. Enjoy it because even I'm not saying every game's a must-watch game. I'm just saying that every night there seems to be at least one matchup that you're going to enjoy, whether it's on the men's side, women's side, or both. And last night we got Maryland at Purdue, big upset win for the Terps, and then you had Indiana steamroll Michigan at home. So I can't talk enough about how much I love Big Ten basketball this year. It's been so fun.
It certainly has. It's been the men's side has been just a big, gigantic group. If Purdue had not been able to sneak away from that group early with the overtime win at Nebraska, a last-second shot winning over Ohio State, then we would be in this big. It would just be a nice big old mess of fun. But they did, and Indiana missed out on their opportunity to tighten this race up. Can you imagine?
I know.
If Indiana wins that game, and what happened last night, now all you're looking at is waiting for the showdown in West Lafayette. Unfortunately, probably won't come to fruition. But
you know what? The door is still cracked, though. The door, it's not. It's ever so slightly. Maybe it's shut, but they haven't closed the deadbolt yet. They have not latched the deadbolt because with Purdue losing, obviously Northwestern's got a very difficult stretch coming up. Indiana still has a head-to-head against Purdue at Mackey Arena. That's going to be a tough game. Purdue's got Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana. I can't remember who the other team is on their schedule. So there is a chance. There is a chance that Indiana could still get a share of that Big Ten title because I don't think Northwestern's going undefeated. If you can beat Purdue at home and maybe get some help, because the blueprint now, Jim, is
they just got their help. They got the help they just got all the help they're going to get. I think
you don't know that.
No, I don't know it. I'm just saying as far as
no. What I'm saying is the blueprint is out to beat Purdue. Now, what I will say is they've lost three of their last four games. Those have all been on the road. So you're probably going to see things. Purdue's probably going to get a different whistle at home because they close out the season with 3 of their last 4 at home. But I'm just saying the blueprint is out. If teams continue to do that, Purdue looks really vulnerable right now.
The blueprint can be out, but you have to have the talent to be able to do that. Maryland did, and they were at home. They don't lose at home. Northwestern has that talent. Indiana has that talent. Not too many teams have that talent, but I mean, it's not impossible. Obviously, like I just said, they went to overtime with Nebraska. They barely beat Ohio State, so it's possible. Yes, I just don't see it. But that's why they let the games play, man.
That's
right. That's why they let it play out. What else happened last night in the Big Ten?
Well, I was just going to go back. I was going to go back to this comment that Andrew Jones made before and said, "Now this is a great thing. If Indiana doesn't win the Big Ten, how about winning the Big Ten tournament? Would be a good consolation prize." I agree with that. I think we talked with Rick Bozich about this before the season tipped off. That could you imagine Mike Woodson winning the Big Ten tournament? They were close last season. They got to the semifinal round. And
people, have you not been listening to me? I've already predicted. I think. I have been having this feeling about Indiana and the Big Ten tournament this year. I don't know what it is, but I think this might be the year that they win the Big Ten tournament. They're going to get the double bye without question. We know that they're capable of beating any team in that league because they have. They've beaten the top. They've beaten the best. They haven't beaten Northwestern yet, but that's a good thing, I guess, that you can say they've lost to them twice because the old adage is, really tough to beat a team 3 times.
Right.
And I don't think that if Northwestern and Indiana came together again, that would be the case. But who knows? But that's up to Indiana. Indiana lost that game as more than Northwestern won that game. Indiana did not come out to play in that first half. I don't care what anybody says. Man, they were if you say otherwise, they just weren't locked in. Look at the first half and look at the second half. And I'm talking about visually. Watch them. Watch the player, how they're playing, how they run to their defensive spots, it was a complete different mentality. But you have to bring that mentality in 2 halves, especially a game as big as what Northwestern was. But so we'll see. But because of that, I think that they're in excellent shape. It's been a long time since they've had a double bye, probably 2016. and and Trace Jackson Davis has a royal career without a crown.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, that's as best as I can think about it. He's had a royal career without a crown.
That's a great way to put it.
Big Ten title would put a crown on his career no matter what they were to do in the NCAA tournament. And it would be another first for Mike Woodson amongst a list of many firsts that he has accomplished in his tenure already.
Let me tell you, I agree with you.
You tell me.
I'll tell you. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna kind of backtrack on something I've said all season long. I think it would be fantastic if Indiana wins the Big Ten tournament. As much as I just talked about them still having the door cracked a little bit on the Big Ten regular season title, I don't think realistically it's going to happen. Winning the Big Ten tournament would be excellent. Jim, the way they're playing right now and the openness of college basketball, I think Indiana can get to the Final Four. And I did not think that 2 or 3 weeks ago. I legitimately think that they have all the pieces necessary to make a Final Four run. Now, you've probably got to find a little bit more toughness in terms of if the whistle isn't going your way, you got to learn to play through that. I think both Indiana and Purdue have struggled with that at times this season when the whistle is not going their way. I'm not saying they're complaining, but I think they let it affect them mentally, and a lot of teams do. But to get to the Final Four, you have to be able to push through that. Trace Jackson Davis is playing on a completely different level. Their guards have stepped up. They're getting contributions from other guys. We've talked about this with Don Fisher. There are times you don't know where that third score is coming from. You don't know where those extra contributions are coming from. If Miller Kopp can continue to shoot the ball as well as he has this season, the one question I have is where does Xavier Johnson fit in if he comes back into the roster? If he's content with being a 10 to 15 minute guy off the bench and providing a spark defensively, or maybe providing Indiana with another scorer off the bench, I legitimately think that they're a Final Four contender because their 2 losses have been on the road, as you mentioned, Jim, against a team that has not lost at home to Maryland. Maryland hasn't lost a Big Ten game at home this season, just annihilated Purdue. And then basically a toss-up game against Northwestern. Northwestern had a better first half, made a few plays down the stretch, maybe got some calls in that game. That's a coin flip. So the way they are playing right now, could you even just a Final Four, I think, puts a crown on Trace Jackson Davis's head. I know we're getting out ahead, putting the cart before the horse there. But I'm not a player. I'm not a coach. I don't have to take it one game at a time. I just think the way they're playing now, the pieces that they have, if Trace Jackson Davis keeps this up, they can get to the Final Four. And I did not believe that a month ago.
They can get to the Final Four if they play like they played against Purdue and not like they did against Northwestern, which was half of how they played against Purdue. Because they've shown they're dominant. When they do that, they dominate. They would dominate most teams if they were playing like that. But getting up and playing at that level, that's the thing that we have not seen them do consistently. They've not been able to do it. They didn't do it for 2 halves against Northwestern. That's the difference between them making a deep run and not, because they are better than many teams. They've got one of the best players in the country, and it all works well when they're playing well. But when they're not playing the defense that they played against Northwestern in the second half and Purdue for the whole game, that other stuff is just not there. And it's a 2-half affair every game. Every game. You cannot take any nights off.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head there. The one devil's advocate on that end would be, I think the Northwestern game was a little bit different because they were in a lull for basically the entire first half. They've had stretches.
They didn't come out to play.
I don't think that'll be a problem in the NCAA tournament because then
I didn't think it would be a problem against Northwestern. Did you? With second place on the line and a shot to try to get and a shot to hope to get a share of the Big Ten championship? No, you can't. No, you had all of that at stake.
I know.
And now after Purdue goes and loses to Maryland, boom, you really had the opportunity, and you did not take care of business. So, yes, I do have concerns that they're not going to do it when they need to, because they didn't. They needed to do it. They didn't then. So, but that only tells me they're not completely grown up yet. They're better.
Sure.
They're continuing to grow. The talent is there, no question. It's just a mental thing of doing it for two halves every game. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But that is what separates the elite and the rest.
The devil's advocate in me would say, I agree with you, they have to come out ready to play. But the devil's advocate in me says they have also gone through stretches during this 9-game stretch where you're like, what the hell are they doing? And that's basketball. You're going to go through a game where you're going to have an 8 to 10 minute stretch maybe where you don't play well, or the other team's hitting everything. They've weathered that storm, I would say 8 times out of 9. They weathered the storm against Northwestern. Northwestern just made a great play down the stretch. If that game goes to overtime, I think Indiana wins. So they weathered the storm 8 times. They really didn't weather it against Maryland. Right?
We've got to take a quick break. Alec Lasley's coming up, so we'll get back because we'll have plenty of time for this, brother. We'll get back to that discussion. Hey, brought to you, of course, by BB's Market. You're part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Make sure you stop by and say hi to the guys. And anytime you do, you mentioned Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Anytime you get 5% off of whatever you're buying. Hey, we're back with Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. to preview tomorrow's Indiana-Illinois game, catch up on any recruiting action as well. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello, Mr. Patagonia.
Patagonia?
How's it going?
Oh, your hat.
He's a Patagonia representative.
Yeah, unofficially, but officially.
What's happening? It's too early for this. What?
What?
What is Patagonia?
You
guys are going to leave me in the dark.
Dustin,
please,
Dustin's
stop.
Dustin's out.
Please, you did not just ask that question.
I did. I have no idea what's happening.
That has nothing to
God.
do with age. That just has to do with
culture.
I'm going to walk away for a second.
Okay. How about let's try some growing here. I'm trying to learn things. What is this? Oh,
Dustin,
for the love
really?
of God, I'm gonna have to Google it. Nobody's gonna. I have no idea what is happening.
Oh no!
It's
I'm not
outdoor
telling you.
gear.
Yeah,
Golly.
which is funny considering, where you work right now.
Oh, it's a
I
clothing
can't believe
company.
I can't believe you didn't know that.
I did not know that. Outdoor clothing and gear. How about that?
Well, there you go.
look.
You learn something new every day.
I did.
I'm glad this is what I can bring.
Look, I go to what's that place called? Damn, I'm not even gonna remember that. REI. Which
I was going to say
yeah.
the Goodwill.
I do that. I go into REI and I get the cheapest stuff. I don't look at brands. I have no idea about any clothing brand. If it's not Nike or Under Armour, I probably don't know it.
I'm a TJ Maxx fan.
All right, guys, as riveting as this conversation is, we go live in 5, 4,
RC.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. I hope you had a great week, ready for the weekend. If not too late, it's here, baby. Welcome aboard, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com, joining us here now. Alec, how are you doing, brother?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Cannot complain. We have been talking about many things. Indiana had the opportunity to make up some ground. Unfortunately, they played Northwestern, a really good team on the road, could not get that job done. Purdue loses that game to Maryland to give them that little bit of opportunity. But I don't think that that's going to happen. But we were discussing the Big Ten tournament, and I think this could be the year for Indiana in the Big Ten tournament. Of course, you could say that every year since it's never been the year for Indiana in the Big Ten tournament, since they've never won it and only been to the championship game once. I just have this feeling that this is the year because we know that there's no team that is dominant, that is better than they are. They're as good as anybody because they've beaten Purdue. They're as good as Northwestern. I would say that all day long. It's just playing them right, and every other team. So we know they have the talent to win that. They're going to get the double bye, so they're going to have that. And Trace Jackson Davis, I just talked about his career as being a royal career without a crown, and this would be that crown to add to his career at Indiana. Not the crown that you want, of course. It would rather be a Final Four or even a Big Ten title, but I think a Big Ten title, a Big Ten tournament championship would sure mean a lot, especially since it has never happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when not only he talked about coming back with this entire group, obviously Mike Woodson talked about, what this potential legacy could be for Trace Jackson Davis. Even nationally, when people talk about him, it's all mainly individual categories and individual stats. That's the one thing that's always been missing from his quote unquote legacy is that team aspect of it. Obviously, he's been on some bad Indiana teams in the past. This year, obviously, much better than any other team he's been on. Last year was obviously significantly better as well. And what they were able to do, right, getting to the NCAA tournament, that was kind of that one box that he was able to check off. Now, with the expectations that they had this year, kind of the rocky path that they've been on to get where they are right now, which is, I think, where still a lot of people thought they'd be at, February 17th, just not maybe the path to take them there. Everything's still right in front of them, right? I still think the regular season Big Ten title's a bit out of reach, but still some things potentially could fall, but that seems a little bit far-fetched at this moment. So you look at the Big Ten tournament title, and obviously they were a shot away from getting there last year to the championship game with the run that they went on. And I think you look at this team and you expect them, right, to play and reach to that same potential that they hit last year. I wouldn't be shocked if they went in and won it, just the way that they have been playing, and the fact that obviously they don't have to go to a true road environment and play there. So there's a lot of things going right for Indiana, even with obviously the most recent loss. But looking ahead, most of the big time games coming up for Indiana aren't going to be true road games. So take that for what it's worth with how Indiana's been able to compete typically at home in the Indy area, right, in the Big Ten tournament, at least as of last year, and potentially get some magic going into the NCAA tournament, because I still think this team still has a lot of those goals and aspirations truly within reach that they wanted at the start of the season.
Devil's advocate a little bit here, because apparently that's going to be my theme for the day. Indiana's going to try to win the Big Ten tournament. They want to win the Big Ten tournament. Fans want to win the Big Ten tournament. Is it potentially more beneficial to be eliminated early from that, purely from the standpoint of that means you get a full week to rest Trace Jackson Davis, you get a full week to rest Race Thompson? I mean, as well as they are playing, I have to believe they're getting worn down at least to some degree. And you're talking about, I assume that they're going to end up with a double bye. So you're talking about playing games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then potentially again Thursday. Whereas if you lose on Friday, you're done until the following Thursday. I'm not saying Indiana's going in there with that mindset. I'm just saying, is there some sort of detriment to this team in terms of health heading into the NCAA tournament, where you could potentially have to play 5 games in 7, whatever the math works out there, 7 or 8 days?
So I think yes and no, right? The way that this team is playing, though, right now, I think you want to continue to get them on the floor and play as many games and stay in this rhythm that they are, especially as we talked about, I think it was last week, with Xavier Johnson potentially coming back. You want to get all the potential minutes with him on the floor as possible with this group.
Sure.
So you're going into the NCAA tournament knowing kind of where everyone's at in terms of what the role is, what the expectations are for each player. So I think you look at it that way. And right, if they do get a double bye, they're going to get, close to a week off. Theoretically, right? Obviously 6 days, whatever it would be from their last regular season game to their first Big Ten tournament game. So right there in itself is a pretty good rest. Obviously playing, 3 games in 3 days potentially. It is what it is, right? I mean, these guys, most of these guys have been in college long enough to know that, that's just what happens at this time of year. With Trace Jackson Davis, I think you would like to potentially sneak in some extra rest just in terms of the game. So hopefully Indiana can get out to, a couple bigger leads, maybe get him some spot minutes and not have him play 37, 38, 39 minutes a game, because I don't think he can sustain that moving forward into a lot of these big time games. Now, when I say that, I'm probably going to go back in reverse here, because in the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten tournament, all those games are on TV. You're going to have longer TV timeouts. You're going to have ways to stretch the game out. So when I now say that, I think it's actually not as big of a deal moving forward into the Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament, because you're going to find ways within the game itself, without taking him out, to stretch out those minutes and get him added rest.
And just to go to your point, Dustin, statistics have shown that if you want to make a run in the NCAA tournament, that it is better to make a run in the Big Ten tournament. I'll have more on that at another time.
Well,
and I know what it's leads you to think that, because a lot of people like to think that last year they lost to St. Mary's in the NCAA tournament because of the quick turnaround and all of that, and it simply wasn't the case. They got beat by a better team.
Right.
They just got beat by a better team. Were they maybe a little tired? Maybe, but like Mike Woodson says all the time, they're 19 and 20 years old. Damn it.
Right.
You have an unlimited supply of energy at that age.
I would not bring up that point if it was a lot of other teams in the Big Ten, but because Indiana has battled the injury bug, because Trace Jackson Davis has battled the back, Race Thompson, Xavier Johnson, because they've had injuries, that's where it's more of an injury than it is a rest standpoint. And just to be clear for people in the comments, I'm not saying Indiana's trying to lose or the players want to lose. I'm just bringing up the question.
Boy, be careful about bringing up questions. I do that a lot. And
it doesn't always go well.
It doesn't always go well. Alec, so Indiana at a home game with Illinois, a team that they beat on the road, it's still going to be a challenging game. Indiana has to bring their top game, but this is a game that they should win. Obviously, being at home aids that immensely, but they've also one of the things I said a minute ago is what the Northwestern game showed me is we already know this team is talented. We already know how good they are. We know how good they can be when they're really playing well, but they have to come out and play like they played against Purdue, which was lights out. Their hair was on fire. Man, they came out, they set the tone defensively and from the get-go. And Northwestern did that the other night. Indiana just didn't show up for that first half, and you can't do that. Maybe against a lesser team, they could do it to a degree and get away with it, but not at this stage of the game, not at this time of year. You have to show that you are growing as a team, maturing to where if there's a time to rest, well, you might know when that is, but it's not for the stretch of the entire first half. So I think that they still have that little bit of growth to do to get past that. Once they do, then their ceiling climbs immensely.
Yeah, and I mean, you take it back even to the Michigan game, right? So that's 2 straight games where Indiana's really struggled out of the gate. Obviously, Michigan were able to toughen that one out and obviously not make it a 19, 20, 21-point lead in the first half that Northwestern had. I think as much as we want to talk about those slow starts, it only is happening outside of the Arizona game, which is obviously the one neutral site game that outside of the Miami of Ohio one, but that was in Indy. The real true neutral site game that they've had this season. All of those slow starts theoretically in the last month and a half when they've been playing at their best have been on the road. And in those true road games, right? Like I said, you don't really, I don't think, need to worry too much about that moving forward, because all the big time games that they are playing, they've at least showed up for when it's at a neutral site environment, when it's at a home environment. And that's all you need to do moving forward is defend home court in the rest of the regular season here. Go into Big Ten tournament play where we know Indiana fans travel, and that's why any of these neutral site games are going to tend to side with Indiana a lot more than whatever opposing team that they're playing. And so when people talk about the slow starts, obviously it's something that I think you have to look more into for next year almost, and trying to find a way to get over that hump of not being able to win on the road, not being able to play consistently enough on the road. Because if you look at some of these games that Indiana's had on the road, there's one or two, right, where if they win those, you're talking about potentially a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, as opposed to a 5 seed, which is probably where they're going to sit at right now if they just continue to kind of hold serve through the rest of the season here. And that's significant when you talk about what this team's trying to get to, and that's a Sweet 16, that's potentially a Final Four. Right? I think everyone has the expectation and the confidence that no matter who Indiana would play in the first round between a 3 and a 5 seed, right, where they're going to look to be slotted, they would win that matchup. Now that's when things though get a little bit dicey, and that's when you would love to be potentially a 3 seed and have maybe a more beneficial matchup, play a little bit closer to home, anything like that. So that's when I think those slow starts and those road games come into play, is those losses that they've potentially had that could have turned into wins. But I don't think these slow starts are really a theme that Indiana fans have to worry about when it goes into Big Ten tournament play, when it goes into the NCAA tournament, just because, again, they've shown the ability to wake up for those games. It's just something about true road environments where this Indiana team and Mike Woodson just have not been able to figure out consistently.
Well, I was going to say, what about when Xavier Johnson comes back? And we're expecting that he will come back. Everyone is trying to guess at when that's going to happen. And I mean, it'll happen when it happens. When I see him out there, I know that he's back, and I'm not going to worry about it really until then. But what I'm more concerned about is when he does come back, how is that going to be integrated? I wouldn't imagine, but although Mike Woodson has shown a penchant for it, as soon as somebody's back, he'll put him right in the starting lineup. They may not get those kind of starter minutes, but he's going to put them in that starting lineup. I don't know, how they're going to do that, or if that's going to impact how this team has grown from an offensive standpoint. They've sure missed his defense and can sure use his defense, especially in the NCAA tournament as they face better guard play. That's when it is really, really going to show itself. Nothing against Trey Galloway. He did a great job, and he got pushed off on a little bit the other night. But if Xavier Johnson is on that assignment, I wonder what a healthy Xavier Johnson, what that would have been like. But it doesn't matter. I'm not blaming. Again, please don't think I'm laying any blame on Trey Galloway or anything like that. It's not the case. I'm just curious on what it will be like when he comes back.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this a large portion of last show too, because it's a very interesting topic, and one that I think can go a lot of different ways. I still think at the end of the day, this is now a team that obviously clearly revolves around Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson-Davis, and Xavier Johnson is going to have to find a way to find the right chemistry with the group that's out there right now. It's not going to be something where you're going to throw Xavier Johnson into the lineup and things are going to go back to what they were at the end of last year and what they were at the beginning of this year. It is clearly a two-man show for Indiana right now, whether people like it or not. Obviously, there's not going to be a third consistent scorer for the rest of the season. And that, unfortunately, I think could potentially be the downfall of Indiana, is not having that. But Xavier Johnson is going to have to find a way to insert himself and bring whatever positive minutes he can do. Like I said, that could be, 9 minutes one game. That could be, 20, 25, 30 minutes the next, just depending on, foul situation. That backcourt we know tends to get in foul trouble very early on in games. And that's when I think if you have a guy like Xavier Johnson potentially coming off of the bench and playing within that second unit and bringing the energy and the change of pace and tempo with that second unit, I think would, if he accepts that, right, I think would bring an enormous amount of value to Indiana, especially in the NCAA tournament where teams like to slow it down and there aren't as many possessions in the game. If you have that change of pace guard coming off the bench, I think that's a very big asset to an Indiana team that really, really struggles still at times in half-court offensive sets, especially against longer, physical, tougher defenses. If you're able to get out and transition a little bit more, and we know that's what Xavier Johnson really excels in, especially, creating opportunities off of the defensive end, getting out, even if it's not in full transition, getting into the secondary break and finding an open shooter. We've seen what this team can do in transition opportunities, and that's when they're running and getting up and down. I think that's when they're at their best, and they tend to really forget that at times, even when they are getting stops. And as much as Jalen Hood-Schifino has brought to this team, he does not have obviously that speed and that change of speed and change of pace that Xavier Johnson brings to the floor, which is game changing. And he's shown that, whenever he's been a full go for Indiana. So I think that's the biggest way that he can help this team. I really would like to see him with that second unit coming off the bench in some sort of capacity. And so I do hope that Mike Woodson, clearly sees that what he has over the last month and a half is this starting five, whether that's been Jordan Geronimo or Race Thompson, right? I think you just look more so at what you have with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. You work around them, and then you figure out the best way to insert Xavier Johnson into that second unit.
I agree with that immensely. I think that, and a lot of times we've seen this year is things that happen with this team have happened because Mike Woodson's hand has been forced a little bit in certain situations, and it has worked out well a lot of the times. So it'll certainly be something to look forward to. Alec, what is coming up in the Hoosier.com for people?
Yep, obviously taking a big look at the next couple of games, the remainder of the season here for Indiana, kind of what they have to do to get that done. Trent Sisley expected to be on campus this weekend for an unofficial visit. So that's another, obviously big name that Indiana fans know a lot about. 2025 four-star guard or four-star forward there from Heritage Hills. But Indiana obviously needing to focus on kind of what happens here in the next few weeks to solidify, kind of what that seeding looks like in the NCAA tournament and make sure that they're healthy, which is the biggest thing going into the postseason.
Look forward to it. Make sure you give not only Alec Lasley a follow, but all the guys at the Hoosier.com a follow and be a subscriber. Keep the coverage coming for all of those guys. And appreciate you, man. We will talk to you tomorrow as Indiana takes on Illinois.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Alec Lasley here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio as we come to you from, of course, BB's Market as we have moved the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios mobile unit out today. Also, Go Team, for those of you on the go, whether it's you, your team, your kids, whomever, looking for that healthy, great tasting snack full of protein, Go Team. GoTeamBites.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Yum.
Give me your damn bacon.
Buddy, this ain't the good stuff, though. I didn't make this.
Oh, here we go. JD versus Jim and a bake-off.
Oh, well, I'm not. Hold on. Hold it.
Timeout. We're calling timeout here. Hold the horses.
Now, what I said I made, that would be, I'd put that up against anybody, but he's got a healthier book in there. He may whip some stuff out. Oh, dude, all right. I've got it. Oh, my God. Wait till Monday.
All right. Wait till Monday. I'm looking
The
forward to
mad
this,
scientist is cooking.
man. Oh, boy. From Chef Jim's Kitchen. Hold on. I got to get a snack because I'm hungry now.
Is Zach's up next, right?
The schedule John sent me had Alec going for 2 segments, and then Zach coming at 6:30.
Wait a minute. Did we only do 1 segment with Zach? I mean, with
Alec, yeah.
yeah. We only did 1 segment, Dustin.
I didn't know if he had to leave or something.
I can get him back.
I mean, we got.
Yeah, he was
it
supposed
doesn't
to be
matter to
here.
me.
But it doesn't. Yeah.
Unless you got something to talk about.
I mean, whatever. I'm good either way. You know I can muster up something to argue about.
How about us sitting here eating? Is that going to work?
I think that'll work. No.
Yeah, that sounds like lovely. Sorry, peoples, but that's what you get when you get it all, baby.
I've got a protein bite. How about that?
It ain't BB's. Okay.
Well, when you guys are ready, we can go back live anytime. Go back live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back here on this lovely Friday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this February day. Man, we are halfway through February already. Can you believe that? A little past halfway through February, as a matter of fact.
Woo!
Do you know what that means?
We're almost to March.
Yes. That
Big
every
fan.
year when we get into like the first part of January, March seems like it is eons away. It's like, oh my God, I'm never going to see warm weather again. And now it's like, I can see it. It's like I can see it. I can touch it. I can almost feel it.
Like a moth to a flame.
I played.
The thing that sucks.
I played golf Wednesday. It's still shocking to me. It was just.
He broke out the
so
sticks
nice
in February.
Well, yeah, it was. And I didn't suck nearly as bad as I thought it was going to.
That's always a positive. And you know who else broke out the sticks yesterday?
I do not.
Tiger Woods. Tiger was back on the golf course yesterday. Finished with, I think it was 3 straight birdies. Is that what he finished with? He finished.
I don't know. He was 2 under at one point, I thought.
He finished with 3 straight birdies. I was going back and forth between working and watching the tournament, so I didn't see what he carded. I think he tees off around 10:30 today. But look, I don't know why the PGA Tour doesn't do this more often. Maybe they will start. But that group of Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, and Tiger Woods, they've got to do that more often for those first 2 rounds. I understand they can't control what happens in the pairings on Saturday and Sunday, so I get that. But in terms of get more premier groups out there, it is incredibly fun to watch. Those guys were having a blast. The way they were just kind of talking to each other and giving each other grief.
What do you think people want to see?
That's what I'm saying. That's how you get the ratings up.
Give the people what they want, Dustin.
And it's so fun to see Tiger go from, look, he was always a great golfer. He always knew the golf course well. But it's so fun to see him go from straight power to now being like a finesse golfer, like playing the bumps and runs, playing the slopes. He outdrove Rory on some drives too. Like he's still got quite a bit in the bag. It was fun to watch him play yesterday.
Howie, I did not know you were in Raleigh, North Carolina. I do not blame you for that. 70 and sunny the last 2 days down in Raleigh, North Carolina, home of the National Sports Media Association, right? Dustin?
Are you asking me that?
Well, you're not a member, obviously. Obviously,
I am not.
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
I am not a. I'm
but
not important
yes,
enough.
it is home of that. My family lives in the Charlotte area, by the way, Howie.
The Queen City.
not from there, but they moved there when I was in high school. But they live outside of Charlotte.
Okay.
Harrisburg, Concord, Kannapolis, out around the Speedway.
That's where Charlotte Speedway is?
Speedway in Concord. It's in Concord,
Okay.
which is outside of the
Right.
city.
Right. It's like
Think of
Indianapolis
every-
Motor Speedway. Yep.
But think of every major sports venue when you in the towns they're in.
Right.
None of them hardly, unless they're
Well-
old, like Madison Square Garden. Where's the Meadowlands?
New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
East Rutherford.
Where New York played forever. Where is like Glendale? That's a suburb, but isn't that a Phoenix suburb?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know my Arizona geography very well.
Let's
I'm gonna be
see.
honest.
There's just so many that
Well, just
always.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway is in Speedway, so
Yeah, but it's still that's considered Indianapolis, really, isn't it? Still, it's inside of 465.
well, that's true.
I mean, if anything's inside of 465, I consider Indianapolis.
If it's within that circle, if it's within the
Well,
circle city, we're getting
now,
it.
and
I don't
it
disagree.
didn't
I'm
used
just
to be.
saying.
And it didn't used to be. I'll guarantee
Right.
you because of, but you would think that with annexation and all that stuff, but then you've got so many suburbs but Speedway used to be its own little place. And it still is in a sorts. But just Howie's he comments a lot, so we appreciate him. I just didn't know. I didn't know he was in Raleigh. I don't recall seeing that. I try to write those down, but not being in the studio, I don't have that notebook to put that in there. But that's one I will remember. It does have its own town and high school, and it is. I mean, but it used to be really a complete separate, which in name it still is, but just because
Speedway?
of age. But very
Spark
cool.
plugs.
I mean, Speedway, Indiana. I mean, what a better place.
I know they appropriately named
Speedway,
it.
Indiana, for the Indianapolis 500.
I
Yeah,
love that.
very
I
cool.
love that the high school is the Spark Plugs. I mean, just a great nickname. We should go down the list of great high school nicknames. Isn't there like the Shoals Jug Rocks?
Frankfurt,
That's a thing, right?
Frankfurt,
Frankfurt hot dogs. Yep. I grew up not near, but around the Frankfurt area.
Where's
so
Pete?
that was good. The Logan Sport, where I grew up, Logan Sport Berries. There's still some debate as to why they were named the Berries. That's a good
Boy,
one.
Borden down in south of Borden Berries, they don't like that. That's what they used to be, I think. Now they're the Borden Braves, but yeah, the Borden Berries. Oh, I know why. Because of all the U-Pick farms down in Starlight area down in
Oh,
southern
that makes
Indiana.
sense. There you go.
Yeah, lots of those great areas, but very, very cool. There's others. I'm trying to think of them, but yeah.
I know. I just brought that up, and now all of a sudden I can't
What?
think of any of the others.
Is this a fact?
It's is it confirmed yet? I've not heard that it's been confirmed. There's some debate as to whether or not they're going to stay or if they're going to move to Arlington Heights. That is a possibility, I've heard. I don't know if it's real or not.
I will say this: they ruined Soldier Field when they upgraded it. Whatever they did, like how long has it been now? It's been at least 10 years, if not longer ago. Probably 14, getting close to 15 years ago. They Soldier Field used to just be pretty solid. It was just a stadium.
Right.
And then they came in and redid the outside, and it looked like half a spaceship. It was really odd. I remember being at a Monday night game for the Bears and the Packers, and I was like, what in the hell have they done here? But the biggest thing is there is freaking zero parking for Soldier Field.
Well, yeah, because it's in downtown Chicago.
I mean, it is. It's just like, boom.
I mean, I don't know where you're going to park.
Half of it's surrounded by the damn lake, so they lose that side.
Right.
But
yep.
I hate seeing stadiums like that go by the wayside. There's no reason for it to go by the wayside, other than the park. Build a freaking parking lot. I don't know.
Wrigley Field is kind of the same way.
Yeah, but
in terms of parking,
dude, that's one that See, that's one that it doesn't matter. That's one they're always going to say, deal with it. This is Wrigley Field. You're coming to Wrigley Field. You're coming to Wrigleyville. You're not just coming to Wrigley Field. You're coming to Wrigleyville. And all that entails that, which is tremendous. If they ever were ever to change that, that would just be oh my gosh, that would be a horrible thing to see happen.
My introduction to the
Chicago. But you know what? A discussion to have is whether or not Indiana should ever tear down Assembly Hall and build a new basketball arena. Now, that is a discussion that
you're gonna start a riot on this chat. I think yes, and that's not going to be popular.
I think they should have done it, but they missed their window, and Fred Glass had a decision to make when he got received the $40 million from Cindy Simon Scott. They had a decision to use that to renovate Assembly Hall or to tear it down and rebuild, which is exactly what they should have done with that amount of money to start with. Then you go in and you build the primo state-of-the-art facility that you will have forever, the best college facility that there is. And Indiana could have a bigger and better home court environment than they do now. They could arrange this in a way that you could have the people who have long held season tickets still get good seats, but still have students in an area that makes it even more difficult on opponents to play in that arena with better seats around the corners. The design of Assembly Hall, I'm sorry, it's not good. It was based off of a cattle auction house in North Carolina, first of all. I think it's Dormond a cattle auction house, which was smaller, and they scaled it up for this. And it's a pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty cool, setup, and that's why it's so loud. It's like two theaters facing each other, but I don't think they took into account what it would be like to sit in those stinking balconies to watch a damn basketball game.
It's miserable. I mean, you can't see. It's hard to see the jumbotron from up there. And I'm not even lying. If you get up high enough, it's difficult to see the game. You can't see the numbers on the player's jersey. And a lot of commenters are agreeing with us that there needs to be a change. Because I agree with you. They did not think about what it looks great
on TV, Lasley. You're right.
It does. It does. I agree with that 100%. It looks great. It's loud. I mean, it's one of the best environments in college basketball for a reason. But there's going to be a way that you can replicate a great environment and not have to go through Assembly Hall, because somebody brought up a great point, and I missed the comments, but if you don't have good seats to an Indiana basketball game, it's hard to watch. Like, if you're not in that lower bowl, it's not good. And what's funny is this was probably 2023. This was probably 10 to 12 years ago that I was with a friend and we went to the Purdue-Indiana game, and there was a line. I don't remember. Maybe both teams were ranked. I don't remember what the situation was. Anyway, we were getting into a discussion waiting to get into the arena, and we were talking about that year we had gone to the Indiana-Purdue game at Mackey and at Assembly Hall, and everybody around us, IU fans, said Mackey Arena is a better place to watch a game. Now, they disagreed on which environment was better and that sort of thing.
There's a lot of places that are better to watch a game.
But I'm just saying, like,
hell, I've been to people's backyards that were better to watch a game.
I'm closer sometimes to the floor from my living room in Gainesville, Florida than I was when I sat in the balcony closer to the court. To me it was eye-opening, because at the time, I didn't realize that a rival fan base would give another team's arena that much credit. But that's how I think that there's a frustration there, especially when it comes to donors and the difficulty it is to secure good seats. Like, if you get good seats, I'm sure Assembly Hall is one of the best places to watch a game. But if you don't,
you've got there's a, and I've used this term this week to some detriment, but there is a line of demarcation of where seats are good and when they start to be bad. Seriously, and I think that is around
where the overhang comes out.
Maybe 40 rows.
Mm-hmm.
You can go about 40 rows maybe, and if you're any higher than that, it's over. It's over, yeah. And so, but it's a cool environment. It's a great environment to see.
Yes.
The history, it sucks that you would be, I don't want to say walking away from, but closing a chapter, which that happens a lot. But what does that do for you? I mean, it's cool to play in that gym, and it would suck for future players to not to get to play in there. So I'm torn on it from the standpoint of the historical aspect, but you got to break it down to what does history do for you at the end of the day? Doesn't do jack squat. So you need a better. You just need a better facility because it brings in more money, and that is going to be key for these schools going forward because they're losing a lot of sources of their revenue because of NIL and all of that. It's going to other places, so they have to have better seats that they can charge people for and have more seats, have additional better seats, and they can only do. They're so limited. The end zones at Assembly Hall is what kills it. You've got that little bleacher section, and all that area right there is wasted, and it's sent up so far away. There's no doubt on me if they had a properly configured arena, it would be the baddest ass place to. You would not want to go play in there ever.
Right. Well, and I think, to your point about history, yeah, it would be closing a chapter, but I think that's more for people like you and me and people listening on the radio and watching on YouTube. There's not a lot of... We're getting to the point now where a lot of the recruits, they don't remember Indiana basketball being great, like being championship level good at Assembly Hall. It's just not... So it is still one of the most historic gyms, but in recent memory, in terms of getting those recruits, I don't think it's going to matter that much, especially if you put the time and effort into building a new facility. If it's state of the art, you're still going to get top end recruits. It's still Indiana. I don't know that a gym like Assembly Hall or an arena like Assembly Hall plays that much of a factor in a kid's decision now because of the recent history.
Well, we got to take a quick break. Up next, our good friend Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us. I hope you're having a great day and ready for your weekend. If not, we'll help you get there, head that direction. Don't forget, brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality. Great places like BB's Market, where we are right now, and many others. Garnish Catering, The Owlery, Fresh Fork, where you can always get fresh food made and delivered to you. You don't have to make a thing. You don't have to clean up. Man, home-cooked, nutritious meals dropped off to your door once a week. No decision, no fatigue, no cleanup. Just go to thefreshfork.com. We're back with more. After this, Zach Osterman joins us.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Zachary, how are you today, sir?
Hey, how we doing?
Cannot complain, my brother. It is Friday, so there's that.
Nice, yeah.
Well, Indiana, sir, they coughed up their opportunity with that Northwestern game after Maryland did what we knew there was a shot of them doing. Man, what is it? Why? I've watched Maryland enough, but they're not that much better. What is it about them playing at home? I mean, I should have to wait and ask you this on the air, but what is it about them at home?
Yeah, they got something there. There's no doubt about that. Willard's got something going there. Do I have time to use the restroom real fast?
Absolutely.
All right, be right back.
Whenever Zach gets back, we can go live, just so you know.
Cool.
Perfect. What is this?
What is this?
Okay.
Okay.
Hi. There's some weird people out there. Just gonna throw that out.
Speak of the devil.
That's the theme today.
What the hell was I just going to look up? Damn it.
Jim Harbaugh says I look like Alvin from the Chipmunks. I assume that's because I'm wearing red, have
Big
a hat
A.
on, and I got
With
the
the big A
on
on
my
it.
chest. Yeah.
Tony, shall be on. Superstar is Dustin in.
That
Swing a hula hoop.
was a that's a great
Not bad, huh?
that's a great comparison right there. Alvin and the Chipmunks with the A and the hat. That's
Well, wait a minute.
good.
How about the
singing? Well, you know the singing was phenomenal.
But I got to hear it. I need that.
My bad. Jim, the singing was outstanding.
I need that.
Get you top prize at the karaoke night.
Oh, what the hell am I looking for? Oh, look at that. Come on, man. Oh, don't start that.
And close out Patagonia here now that I know what it is.
All right, guys, when you're ready, we can go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios mobile unit as we're at BB's Market, of course, as we are each and every Friday. Part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Joined now by our good friend Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, the IU beat writer for the Star. Zach, how are you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
Cannot complain. Of course, Dustin Schutte with me as always as well. An interesting week in the Big Ten. The Indiana's women just continue to roll as they did again last night with their third straight win over a top 15 team, ninth win over a top 25 team, which is the most in the country. They're cruising towards a number one seed, and good for them. The men's team had a great opportunity this week and traveled to take on a tough Northwestern team, obviously second in the Big Ten right now. They were coming off of a win over Purdue, but Indiana needed that win to, if they were going to have a shot at getting any piece of the regular season Big Ten title, because there was hope that Purdue would go to Maryland, and with Maryland's tremendous play at home this year, that they would be able to knock off the Boilers, which they were. Unfortunately for the Hoosiers and their fans, they were not able to take advantage of that. But it is what it is, and I think that it just showed Indiana is, while very, very talented, they're still just this close to being that complete team. They've not matured to that level where they know they have to play at the highest level for two halves and not come out ready to play like they did at Northwestern, it seemed.
Yeah, I guess there's part of me that would probably question the initial premise of whether this can be the complete team, in the sense that I think there will always be flaws with this team. For example, they're always going to I think, turn it over more often than they turn teams over. That's just part of their design. Games of extremes like that, in my experience, that it's never quite as good or as bad as it seems. That Northwestern probably didn't earn its way to a 21-point win. Indiana probably didn't earn its way to a 21-point comeback. And if it all kind of came out in the wash, and if we were talking about, let's say, a game that played out similarly to the Michigan game, but Indiana just couldn't finish it at the end, then we'd just say, well, that was a tough game on the road, and and those happen sometimes. It doesn't hurt Indiana. Yes, at least to some extent, Indiana could have sort of made the Big Ten title race interesting again. I would point out they still would have had to beat Illinois at home and Michigan State on the road in what is going to be, I think, a very unusual environment on Tuesday night in the Breslin Center for a lot of really sad reasons. And then they'd have to go win at Purdue just to tie Purdue. But I think that Indiana, it's understandable if you look at Indiana and you say, or if they say they're disappointed with the way they started. I think they probably should have been at Northwestern. I think that they deserve credit for the way they solved their problems and the way they came back. And I also think that there's an extent to which this is maybe the time of year where if you're Mike Woodson, you're allowed to look at them and just say, hey, guys, we don't get a lot more free passes in terms of, not starting well, finding our own energy on the road or at least away from home, et cetera, because, we talk all year about how you want to be playing your best basketball at the right time. Well, it's not quite the right time, but we're not far off of it. We're 11 days from March. Indiana doesn't have a lot of runway left to get better. And I think that's, that game as it goes can stand as a bit of a wake-up call in that regard.
Well, and I think,
Dustin.
Zach, where I would go and maybe ask this question would be, I understand that you can't have really those slow starts, and especially when you're going to be on the neutral. When you're going to be on a neutral court, you still have Purdue left to play. At the same time, I would say 8 out of the last 9 games. The thing that I'm optimistic about, if I'm a fan, is the fact that you've weathered those storms. You didn't beat Northwestern, but you weathered that storm and you were able to fight back. There's been at times during this stretch where they played really well. They might go 6 or 8 minutes and have a really bad slump, but they've been able to claw their way out of that. So to me, I feel like if there's an optimistic side, maybe they're not playing a full 40-minute basketball game quite yet, but at the same time, they've been able to endure those lulls where they haven't been playing well, and they fought back. They've won 7. They had a chance to beat Northwestern, so 8 times out of 9, and the only loss is coming against where you didn't have much of a shot is against a Maryland team that hasn't lost a Big Ten game at home, just annihilated Purdue last night. I still think that that's a positive to take away heading into the most important month of the season.
No, I think it's fair. I mean, I think again, listen. I mean, Indiana's. This can cut both ways. You can say Indiana's a couple of, baskets away from losing at Minnesota. You can say that they're a couple baskets away from losing at Michigan. You can also say that, I know there are people that were making the argument that Boo Buie pushed off. I thought maybe there was a third step there. You don't see those calls made a lot in situations like that. The point is, if you're Indiana, I think you're still for the moment, and it's all contextualized by what comes next, but you're still for the moment allowed to say, if I'm speaking as Indiana, I'm saying we've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in the last month, in the last really 3 weeks that have been decided by 6 or fewer points. We've won 5 of those games or 4 of those games. That's a good ratio, that you're finding a way to get it across the line. 3 of those are on the road, 2 of them are at home. I think it's just I didn't think that Indiana – I thought Indiana got more good than bad out of the Northwestern game. I thought it was a reinforcement of the idea that this team is a lot better at solving its problems than it was a year or 2 ago, and not just waiting for a coach to do it, but we heard, about how – at halftime, different guys were pointing things out to each other and sort of making those adjustments on their own. Obviously, if they could have made them a little earlier, maybe you can win the game. But I still just think that Northwestern, as it was, again, just felt like a bit of a game of extremes. But I think it was still good for Indiana in the way it unfolded. And Indiana didn't need to win that game. Indiana's in good NCAA tournament position. They finish if all they do is win out at home, they've at least still got a chance at a double bye. It's getting kind of crowded up there in the 3, 4, 5 spots in the Big Ten right now. We'll see how things unfold, but just broadly speaking, I think your assessment is fair that there's more good than bad for Indiana right now, and even. Listen, teams are going to lose games. It doesn't always mean that it's exposed some fatal flaw. It just means
Right.
that, some nights, especially on the road, you just can't quite find it. And, guys can say stuff like, we weren't ready. I got to make sure we're ready. Well, I get that. But, if there were just some button to push, then teams would never lose on the road,
Right,
and so
right.
there's that element of it, too, that it's like, yes, you need to be better at that. You need to be more aware of that. It's good to have a reminder of that. But if there were just some sort of magic wand you could wave, then teams would never lose. And so that's always just part of it too. The other team is trying as well.
One of the things that I was talking about earlier with Alec Lasley is everyone is guessing when Xavier might come back. My biggest question is if he comes back, how will they integrate him back into the rotation? Mike has shown a penchant for putting his veterans right into the starting lineup when they're back, if they're able to be, which I think that with how this offense has evolved, I'm wondering if it might not be better to keep Jalen and Xavier separate, with one on the court, with the other one's not on the court. But I don't know how they're going to do that, how they're working that. Obviously, I'm not in practice. Xavier's defense is critical if he's able to play that type of defense. But always dangerous reintegrating someone that's been out for a while, especially when you're toward the end of a season.
Yeah, I think that the conversation is a little bit different for Xavier Johnson than it was for Race Thompson, for example. Just because Race Thompson wasn't out nearly as long. This team has undeniably grown up, since Xavier Johnson got hurt. Not necessarily because he got hurt, but they're a different team than they were, late December, and that's just part of college basketball. There's also obviously the question of whether or not you need to limit his minutes at all, and maybe you don't. Maybe you've got the confidence that he can go out and give you 23, 25 right away. But I do think that there may be a bit more of an easing in process with Xavier Johnson. Now, I don't think it could be very long. Let's say Xavier Johnson were able to get back in one of the next 2 or 3 games. I think you could see him starting again by the Big Ten tournament, for example. But both because of maybe wanting to get him comfortable with what's changed since he's been out, and also it should be said, letting his foot kind of respond to game action and not stressing it too much, because a lot of times when you have when you have a procedure like that, one of the things that you can run the risk of is just stressing it too much and stress fractures and things like that. I think I think there's a decent chance that what we see with Xavier Johnson is more kind of the idea of him, sort of off the bench initially, but as he can ramp things up, provided he's okay, eventually it turns up a level.
So and coming down this stretch, we've talked about earlier in this show, not quite close the door on a Big Ten regular season championship, although a lot of things would have to fall in place for Indiana to get there. But just how much momentum would it give this team heading into March Madness if they're able to secure their first Big Ten tournament title? I know there's still a couple weeks left of the regular season, and I assume that they're probably going to lock up a double bye. Nothing's in set in stone, but I think the way they're playing right now, I think they have a good shot to do that. I mean, I feel like that this might be the best shot they've had in their maybe not program history, but the way they're playing right now heading into the Big Ten tournament feels like this might be their best opportunity to finally get over that hump.
Yeah, the double bye is going to be tricky. It's worth saying. That they're guaranteed now to not have the tiebreaker over Northwestern or Maryland, because they only play Maryland once. Maryland also finishes in its last 5. It plays Nebraska on the road, Minnesota at home, and Ohio State and Penn State on the road. So those are games you'd expect Indiana to be favored in. Obviously, a win Saturday I think would be really important in terms of double bye sort of positioning to get the season tiebreaker on Illinois. Those head-to-head tiebreakers don't always matter if you have sort of multi-way ties, but that's the most you can take care of now. You've also got the Michigan State game, which in theory, if you won it, you could hold that tiebreaker against Michigan State. Rutgers is kind of hard to pin. 3 of their last 5 are on the road, but they do get Minnesota, and they get Wisconsin on the road, Michigan at home, Penn State and Minnesota both on the road before they finish with Northwestern. My point is there's kind of a lot to shake out still in terms of, Maryland's got to play Northwestern too. So some of the teams that Indiana's competing against, there's a couple that maybe it can kind of put behind it from a tiebreaker perspective. And there's a couple that kind of still need to play each other, and that could affect, double bye possibilities. I do broadly think that, listen, this is a team that has the muscle memory of playing well in the Big Ten tournament. I think it's a team that, probably felt like if it could have found 1 or 2 more buckets in that Iowa game, it could have won the Big Ten tournament. And I think, too, there's, I always kind of get people who sort of want to just debate this, how much should Indiana care? How much should they prioritize it? Is it good to maybe win a game in the tournament and then bow out and get a couple extra days rest? I think until Indiana wins the Big Ten tournament once, then they should really just – it sounds simplistic, but they should really just focus on winning the Big Ten tournament. They should not look that gift horse in the mouth until they can at least cross it off the to-do list at least one time. But I also think it could be carnage up in Chicago in a couple of weeks because we have, right now, you look at Kim Pom's projections, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams projected to finish above 500 in conference play. And that includes Michigan State not having rescheduled the Minnesota game yet. So I think that it has been a league that has beat up on itself like it often does most of this season, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it shakes out when we do get to the United Center here in about 3 weeks.
Totally off the subject question we were just rattling about. It's nonsense stuff in regards to Assembly Hall. Any chance that which I know ever is not the right word, but the replacing of Assembly Hall, I don't see it happening now for a long time since they made the renovations. It seems like they've committed to it. And I just don't see them doing that to spend the money with NIL now. The schools aren't making the money that they once were, but does that give them impetus to actually build an arena that could actually drive more money with suites, with the amenities that can bring more income in? And is that something that's ever going to be considered, or are they just between too much of a rock and a hard place?
Yeah, so there's not a short answer to this. I've written a lot about this down the years. The short answer is obviously all buildings have to be replaced at some point. I don't think this one will be replaced for a very long time. I think there are a variety of reasons for that. First of all, when you take a naming gift on a building, you tend to commit to a certain period of time for that naming gift, if not in perpetuity. And of course, if a building was condemned or something, but the point is you can't, you pull the rug out from under a donor that handed you $40 million 8 years into, the renaming of the facility. They're going to say, whoa, I'd like my money back then, please. The other part of this, Indiana explored heavily in the late 90s and 2000s, replacing Assembly Hall, even going so far as to send trustees and university officials on junkets to, Missouri's arena, which the name escapes me, Memorial Hall maybe, John Paul Jones Arena at Virginia. I believe the Xfinity Center at Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, was one of them. It was called the Comcast Center at the time. I think it was one of them. Keep in mind, Indiana was a very cash-poor athletic department in the late 90s and early 2000s. And so the idea of paying for a new building was daunting. But there was a point in time when I was in college, I think 2007, when the Board of Trustees passed a resolution essentially declaring that Assembly Hall needed to be replaced at some point in sort of the undefined future, and no one was going to say exactly when that was, but they were acknowledging it needed replaced, and B, that the board was basically going to forswear any future improvements or renovations to Assembly Hall. Obviously, that was lifted about 10 years later when they committed to the renovation. Just functionally, the problem you have in the modern landscape is that the sort of arena fans would expect, that would need to, at minimum, hold seating capacity while adding luxury suites, leisure areas, donor areas, and would need to stay consistent with, location, because Cook Hall's right there. The whole athletics campus is right there. You can't build it, somewhere random. That would cost probably starting around $200 to $250 million.
That's right, what I was thinking.
You would essentially need like a T. Boone Pickens level alumnus who could just step in and bankroll like 50-60% of it at a whim or at a start, just to get going on that, because you're not going to make, the way that arenas like that pay for themselves is, yes, luxury boxes, luxury seating, things like that. But really the way they pay for themselves is alternative events.
Yes, and that's where Indiana gets really hurt, I think.
Yeah, like there's just no – when Assembly Hall was built, there was no commensurate facility in Indianapolis. And that's why the Stones played Assembly Hall, Elvis played Assembly Hall, Springsteen played Assembly Hall, the Barnum and Bailey Circus came through multiple times, Simon and Garfunkel played Assembly Hall. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like this was Assembly Hall was kind of the South Central Indiana event venue, and then Market Square Arena opened in Indianapolis, and then the Hoosier Dome, and so slowly but surely that stuff started to migrate north, and really never came back in any meaningful way. I mean, I'm sitting here struggling to remember the last time Indiana hosted a big concert. I want to say they had like Wale and Lil Wayne there in like maybe 2010, something like that. I'm struggling to remember the last time Assembly Hall hosted a big concert. The point is, it doesn't happen often. And Tottenham Hotspur, the football club in England, just rebuilt its stadium, like 800 million pounds. But a big piece of their sort of plan for paying down the debt on the stadium over several years is that they landed the contract to be the stadium that hosts every NFL game that goes to London for the next however many years. And so the ticket take from that is going to pay the stadium debt off. You'd have to take out a substantial amount of debt that there's no obvious way to pay. You would not be able to. Yes, you'd probably get more money on luxury seats and suites and things, but not enough to pay off the debt service that you'd need to take. You'd have, I think, a very hard time getting any sort of bond issue out of the legislature. It's just too much money, and it's not a good investment because there's just not a need beyond basketball for an arena, for a facility of that scale in Bloomington.
Yeah.
I think Indiana, for all those reasons, is locked into Assembly Hall for at least another generation. Again, at some point, maybe building those arenas becomes cheaper. Maybe they just need to bite the bullet and replace it. But for now, that's.
And the way it is designed, it prevents you from making alterations very much. I mean, what they did with the Spirit of 76 Club was about as far as they could probably go on the ends because of the cable design of the structure, I think.
Right. No, that's true too. I mean, you can't dramatically alter the bowl there.
Zach, what is up next for you, my friend, besides covering IU tomorrow, of course?
I was just going to say that's it. I mean, it's just, it's
I don't have the start pulled up right now. I'm trying to get it pulled up off of here to see if you've got when was your most recent piece?
It was just what we published yesterday out of the Northwestern game.
Cool. So, make sure you give Zach a follow, of course, as always, for complete coverage of Indiana and much more at the Indy Star. Be a subscriber. I am Zach. We will see you tomorrow, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, as always.
Appreciate you. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. We've got more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, mobile unit here at BB's, and we're back with it. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, of course. Metalworks served in all of the Endeavor hospitality restaurants, or you can go right to the source. Metalworks Brewing Company located right off the square in Bloomington when you're in town for a game. If you're not here already, right on 6th Street. Back with Dustin's Daily Double after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I just made that up. So there you go, folks. You're not getting a new arena. as I suspected, you are
Not
not getting a
happening.
new arena for 20 years.
Unless Mark Cuban.
That ain't happening.
No, I don't think it is either.
I'm telling you, it's not happening. Indiana is, and it sucks to say stuck with Assembly Hall because it's an iconic environment, and the things that happened in it are so iconic. And the arena, how it looks, is iconic. But as a venue, it flat sucks from a spectator standpoint.
Right, it does.
At a certain, if you're, like I said, if you're within a certain deal, you're fine. But it is cool being in there. It's cool walking into there. It's one of those places that is very, very cool. It's just Indiana's going to have to deal with it. So there you go. That's that. So what's Dustin's daily double going to be?
Good question. I have no idea.
You got 5 seconds to come up with it as we go live.
5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, wrapping your week up. I hope it's been a good one. If not, we'll start a new one tomorrow. It's Saturday. I hope you're ready for the weekend. Lots of sports action this weekend. The games, man, there are, of course, everyone plays in conference. Rutgers is at Wisconsin at noon, while Indiana is hosting Illinois. Michigan State tomorrow night travels to take on their rival, the Wolverines. Penn State goes to Minnesota. Ohio State is at Purdue, a rematch of a game that Purdue won by 1 point, or won on a last-second shot earlier when they played the Buckeyes. Maryland goes to Nebraska. Would not be surprised to see Nebraska beat Maryland after they just beat Purdue at home. Iowa is at Northwestern. There is, and that could be a challenging game. Now, that's a game for Northwestern to watch out. Northwestern, we thought that they might, you might catch them after that Purdue win. No, they were jacked and ready. So
they were.
I think because this is all new to them, man, this is not something they've gotten to do. So they're riding this train. They don't seem to be getting swept up in, Woody called the other day. Woody said that he thought his team came out, they were too hyped before and I'm really wondering, did you mean too confident?
Yeah, I think
because I did not see them being hyped, man. They were anything but that. It just seemed like from what he said, he meant that they were a little overconfident, which again, I'm like, how in the hell can you be that way? You're fighting. You look up. How can you be that overconfident? Look up. That's all you got to do. But I digress.
Well, you digress. Well, let me tell you, I know we got some good games on Saturday with obviously Illinois and Indiana, and we got Michigan State, Michigan, which is going to be, I'm sure that's going to be a very emotional game. Then on Sunday, how does Purdue respond after losing 2 in a row, 3 out of the last 4? They're back at home. That's going to be interesting, although Ohio State just got boat raced by Iowa last night. Nebraska, Maryland. Nebraska has won 3 of their last 4, and Keisei Tominaga is maybe the best shooter in the Big Ten right now. He's averaging more points than Trace Jackson Davis and Zach Edey.
I thought that was an appetizer.
And then,
can I get some Tominaga to go, please?
Iowa Northwestern is going to be and then Iowa Northwestern is going to be. That's going to be really fun. That's going to be. Look, I'm just saying that could be. Could that game be decided under 50? I know Iowa can score, but I feel like the defense in that game.
No way that I see it being that low. I think it's in the 60s, 70s at the lowest.
You think it's going to be an offensive shootout a little bit?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Both teams are very defensive.
When we come back, I have another argument we can go with. Names on the back of the uniforms, the old adage.
Oh boy, here we go.
Ginger Stash says we're not giving enough credit to the design of Assembly Hall, what makes it so loud. That's not the relevance that I'm talking about, though. It doesn't matter how loud it gets. It's how miserable it is for fans to watch games there. It absolutely sucks if you're above a certain row.
And people pay a lot of money for those seats.
Well, sometimes
doesn't matter where they are. That's what I'm saying. You pay a lot of money for not great seats.
By the same token, it's just as loud and this is coming from Todd Leary and those guys. It's damn near. It's basically the same as just as loud at Mackey as it is to them at Assembly Hall.
Right.
So Indiana has 3,000 more people, and there's no doubt that makes a difference. But it also loses some because of I don't know how enthralled into a game can you be when you're up in the balcony.
Right.
You basically have to get text messages to know what's going on.
Well, Todd brought up a really good point earlier this season, and I think it was, I don't remember if it was Kansas or Arizona or Xavier. I don't remember what it was, but he basically made the point of loud is loud. Like once you get to a certain point, the decibel level doesn't really matter. Once you hit a certain level, it's gonna, when you can't hear, when you can't communicate to your teammates, it doesn't matter whether it's, I don't know decibels, but it doesn't matter the level that it reaches.
Right.
Once you get to a certain point. So does it really matter if Assembly Hall is 6 decibels louder than Mackey or Fog Allen or Hinkle or whatever the arena you want to put it up against? Probably not. When it gets down to it, and there's no argument. We've talked about this multiple times. It has nothing to do with the environment, the noise. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's strictly that you might pay $150 to sit at the very top of Assembly Hall, and you cannot see squat.
Gamebridge is the design that I would agree with going with. It's that, and probably about 2,000 seats smaller at about what they have right now, 17,005. Yeah. They might be able to go 18,500 because I think they could get it.
I'm going to look up what it is now.
What is Gamebridge? I think it's around 19.
It's
19.2 or so.
20. Yep.
Yeah, that's more than.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That's max capacity. For basketball, it's 17.2.
Oh, wow. Almost exactly what it is in Assembly Hall. So
there you go.
So that is, it's just got much more, the seating that wraps around the court is so much better. You're able to maximize that. Then you have the suite areas, and then you have 2 decks basically above it, so you don't have to stack it so far back. It's never going to happen. So we're wasting our time talking about it, to be honest with you. It's Derek getting back on the Tiger train, 69 yesterday. And that is amazing. Let's be honest about that. And by the way, that they're at Riviera, right?
Riviera, yep, the Genesis.
Is that where he was going when he wrecked?
No, I don't think so. He was in Florida when he wrecked, wasn't he?
No,
I don't remember.
No, he was out in LA.
Oh, wait. Yes, you're right. I was thinking of the other incident. Yes, you're correct. My bad.
The other incident. Would you be talking about when his wife took a 9-iron to the vehicle?
No, the one after that. He had taken some pain medication and was driving and was then arrested.
Yeah.
I think that happened in Florida as well.
Five Lefts loves my my Alvin and Chipmunks impersonation.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my claim to fame. And he can do Alvin and the Chipmunks. He's great. Yeah, you're right. He needs to stick with broadcasting. I agree with you. Richard is right. There you go. JTP will be back on. Yeah, that's be his walk-up music when he gets back next week. We've got to take a break. We've got more to get finished out here on this Friday, heading into the weekend. Big sports weekend. What have you got planned? Let us know what's going on, where you going. Shout out to all of our peeps up in. We've got region rats, river rats, cave rats that I'm gonna start calling, and another one soon to be added. I'm not going to say just yet, but of course, hello to all of our region rats up listening on 12:30 a.m. 104.7 WJOB. Hope you guys are having had a great week up there and ready for the weekend. Everybody, our River Rats listening on the Ref 97.7 ESPN, always the right call on the Ref down in Evansville. Our Cave Rats down by Marengo on 89.9. So I've just added rats to all those. Region Rats was a
Apparently.
thing. Region Rats is a term of endearment for those that live in the region. And I just added the River Rats to it. Makes sense. And then the Cave Rats. And then I've got another one that's going to be great because it's going to be a perfect little play. But hopefully adding another new station to another new area. But wait to tell you guys about that in the next week or so. But looking forward to it. We've got a break here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios at BB's. Back with more, brought to you by Cabello Restaurant. Get the tastes and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana at Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Absolutely. Fazan?
Oh, how about that?
I need to get two. We got to get one for Dustin.
That's what I'm talking about.
At first, I was like, no, I'm not into Nike. I don't wear Nike.
Yeah, I had to think about that one too.
Fozon, I was thinking Nike for a second. I'm like, I'm not a big Jordan. I mean, I'm not that I have anything wrong with it, but most of my stuff is otherwise. But I'm like, that's funny. He's talking about the country, baby.
That's right.
Hails to the yes. Greatly appreciate it. Appreciate you already. Let's see. Oh, I'm glad he's gone. You don't have to face the tyranny of knowing that he was wearing Marty McFly's vest.
I saw that.
I did not see that. Thank goodness. I can't read that. It's blocked. What's it say? 40 years ago, North Carolina State Dart. Oh! Ah.
All right, guys, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this fantastic and fabulous Friday. Welcome back. Jim Coyle with you, Dustin Schutte, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Mobile unit here as we're at BB's Market, where we come to you each and every Friday, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club, as is many other great places in and around the Bloomington area. Make sure you stop by, whether it's Southern Stone Restaurant or Feast Market Cellar, any of the great places. Endeavor, Cheryl, and I forgot to mention today, Cheryl Sizemore and Barbara Pop Real Estate Services also. If you're in the Indianapolis area looking for a home, reach out to Cheryl Sizemore. She can get you into the home you want quicker than anyone there. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. And our friends down at you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area looking for a home, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services served those communities for 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt at barbarapop.com. Welcome back to the program, and it is Friday. I see some snow spitting outside, man.
Oof.
2 days ago, I was playing golf.
You can still play golf. It's just your hands might sting.
2 days ago, I was comfortably and enjoyably playing golf.
Okay, there we go. Yep. Good qualifier there.
I don't even want to walk to my vehicle right now. But it's winter. You can't complain. Hey, it is what it is. But as I said, man, it doesn't do any good. We're 2 weeks from March, brother.
I know. It's exciting.
So I'm happy as a But
Happy as a clam.
not only that, you know what March means? Tournament basketball.
That's right.
There's good and there's bad with that. The good is the obvious. Tournament basketball. The bad, it's the beginning of the end.
I know.
And not is it just the beginning of the end. Once college football's over and the bowl's over, you're like, it doesn't hurt very bad because college basketball's in full swing.
Right. You get right
the
into
NFL,
it.
The NFL is going, bam.
Yep.
You've just got, there's just so much to college basketball ends. That's a big drop as far as sports to watch, but that doesn't mean, and doesn't mean you guys go anywhere because, we're here year round, 5 days a week. We'll be here with you every day, whether it's March, April, May, June, July, August, back in September, started all over again. We're here all the time. So you guys got to stay with us through the summertime too, man.
Well, it helps that I'm an MLB and a golf fan, so there's always, and NBA, so there's always something going on.
Well, Major League Baseball just getting kind of opening up.
Yep,
training
spring
season.
Training. Yep.
Rick Bozich, big baseball guy. He's a big White Sox fan.
Yep. Poor guy.
White Sox, man. Who's your team? Oh God.
Atlanta Braves.
I thought that was for Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Well, hey, you know what? We repurposed it for today. Alvin and the Chipmunks and the Atlanta Braves. Oddly enough, it's when people see this logo though, I get a lot of Roll Tide. People think it's the Alabama logo. It's not. Alabama's got a mullet up here.
Well,
a little
that's
mullet
funny.
On the top.
That's a little funny, but actually they don't use blue.
They also don't use blue. But
blue is in none of their color schemes, so anyone that would think that's Alabama is a little not paying attention to what's going on. Speaking of what's going on with you in this week, everybody this weekend? What all are you doing? You just hanging in, watching games? Because it's going to be kind of one of those weekends as the season starts to wind down. There are tons of games in the Big Ten, of course. Every team is playing this weekend. And then you've got the rest of the league. What's the big? What are some of the bigger games this weekend? By the way, let's see, top 25 games. That's what I want to see. Got to get those pulled up.
I was gonna say I'm getting it pulled up here too. Top 25 games over the weekend. You got Virginia. Well, that's not going to be a good game. There might not. Iowa State at Kansas State.
Louisville gave Virginia all they wanted.
They did. Baylor at Kansas. Number 9 Baylor at Kansas. That's a 4 p.m. ESPN game. So that should be a good one. That's really it for Saturday. And then Sunday, really? North Carolina State and North Carolina. Houston plays Memphis on Sunday. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
But other than that, Tennessee goes to Kentucky.
That's going to be interesting because Kentucky beat Tennessee at Tennessee.
Right.
And Kentucky is not exactly setting the world on fire right now. And there would be nothing that would make Indiana fans happier than to see Tennessee go into Rupp Arena and beat the Wildcats, add a little salt into that Calipari wound.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, I have to be honest, as much as I enjoy seeing him twist in the wind. He's just not one of my favorite. I just don't like the way he's done things. I don't think that I've always said it, that he's not going to outcoach anybody. He can only out-talent you. And by out-talenting you, that means he was able to get the talent. And that talent was gotten for years. 4 years. Look at Duke. Look at Kentucky. Again, look at when they both went bad. It happened at the same time. Mm-hmm. Has either of them really recovered, by the way?
Well, Duke just played in the Final Four last year.
Yeah, but that's
I don't know what else. Kentucky's been in worse shape.
And Krzyzewski leaves, and
right. And they've not been very good this year. I mean, not, by Duke standards.
Kentucky is still got the same guy.
Yep.
They've not. Yeah, it's. I wish I told John, the producer. I wish I could go back and find it. We'd have to know the exact date. I should have marked it, but I said it multiple times. It was about 2 years ago that I said I predicted, which it's not going to happen this year, but I said, you mark my words, Calipari's got 2 years left. I said the one and done era is over. He cannot out-coach people. He can only out-talent you. He can no longer out-talent you. And then the portal change, that added even more to that because it equaled a lot of teams, and he's falling further and further behind. I don't care how good a recruiting class he's got coming in next year. It's a great one. He had 9 out of the top 10 recruiting classes for a decade and won one national champion because he cannot out-coach people. And he's not going to out-coach people with freshmen. It just doesn't matter. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's
it's interesting because I would have never thought that Kentucky fans would get fed up with Calipari.
Oh, kid me. They get fed up with whoever it is. They get fed up with their mom if she didn't win.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't think I guess I didn't think we would get to this point in terms of I never thought that Kentucky would be under him in this. Now, would they win national championships every year? I didn't think that, but I'm just saying to get to this point
when you have
when
you have the number one recruiting class 9 out of 10 years, yeah, that expectation is there. It is there for me. It's damn sure there for me to win more than one.
Well,
that's the only national championship he's ever won.
I know. The Memphis one's got to still haunt him. Missed free throws down the stretch. What do you mean,
was cheating.
Why?
Didn't matter. He cheated. That banner got taken down.
Why does that matter?
Because that banner got taken down. Regardless, that team that would not. They still
won.
With cheating players, with players they shouldn't have had.
Okay, I don't hear. This is what I.
They had players on that team that would not been eligible.
I understand.
So therefore, you can't. So those games that they won, no, I don't see those as wins.
I do.
Those players would not have been on the court. I'm not talking about a situation like Louisville, where they took that 2013. That's BS. That did not. That's a different situation where I do not think that had any bearing on the games. Those guys were going to be there. They didn't. Who did they get that they weren't going to get? Are you kidding me? That was.
I mean, I'm not a huge the games have. We can talk about cheating all you want, but people remember how it went down. That doesn't retroactively take Memphis out of the championship game.
I think it does when after the fact you knew that they were cheating and their Final Four banner got taken down. There's a difference between the type of cheating that Memphis was doing to get players eligible to be on that team to win those games and what Louisville did, which was just stupid stuff. It wasn't to get players eligible. They were trying to recruit guys, but none of the stripper thing had nothing to do with them winning that 2013 national championship. Trust me.
What about?
And I'm not a Louisville fan in any way.
I don't know what year it was, but what about then North Carolina and making up classes?
That was 18 years of that crap.
Okay,
that's
so
18 years of things that they need to go back and take away from them.
So you would take away.
You're damn right.
18 years. Oh.
I would go back 18. I would see who did what. It matters who did what. Did they keep? Are there certain players that they purposely kept eligible that directly helped them win? Then hell yes, it comes down. It's a direct. For me, it's a direct result. If it's a direct result thing, yes, because it doesn't happen though. It doesn't happen.
But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. That's my point. It doesn't change anything.
It changes everything in people's minds. At least
it doesn't.
Mine. It doesn't mine.
Okay, well,
for a win, there are two different types. There's wins that are taken away because of things outside of what I'm talking about, like Joe Paterno losing all those wins. Okay, he didn't cheat on the field. So those wins he still had those wins taken away from him, but it was not because he cheated on the field or anything he did to get those wins came from that. It was a separate thing. I see these as separate issues. The players that Memphis cheated to make eligible to play in these games that they won.
I get what you're saying.
That does not happen. They don't win those games because those players aren't eligible.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Louisville didn't do that. They did something just other stupid crap.
Right.
That's why I see that.
I get that perspective.
He did the same thing in Massachusetts with what's his name? That banner comes down.
Yeah, Marcus Camby, wasn't it?
Came down. Marcus Camby. That banner came down.
I understand and agree with what you're saying. There are two different schools of thought, trains of thought about what happens maybe off the court as opposed to what happens on the court. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't go back in my mind and, like, there's not another team playing in that championship game. It doesn't retroactively put, I don't even know who was in the Final Four that year. I can't think off the top of my head. But it doesn't put Indiana or, like, there was a lot of scandal with Clem Haskins at Minnesota. They made the Final Four. I still remember them going to the Final Four, and I think that there was some issues with that season. So that it just, in my mind, doesn't change anything. I wish what they would do is properly punish the people who are involved, so that way in the future it doesn't happen again. Or but they don't do that. They're just like, well, we're going to take your wins away and you can still coach. Well, nobody gives a damn. Okay, you took away my wins. I still got paid. I still got another job. I still get to say I made it to the championship game. He gets to say all of that stuff. He has punish it. Don't allow him to coach in college basketball for a set amount of time, or whatever the case might be. I don't know what the punishment is, but the NCAA for so long, and it's going to come crumbling down at some point. I just don't know when. But for so long, their goal has just been to retroactively take away wins, and they think that solves the problem, and it doesn't.
Nothing solves problems, baby, but problem solving. Let's see. All right, so Indiana taking on Illinois. Who you got?
I'm going to take Indiana.
Yeah, I don't see him losing this game. I see him winning this game easily.
Illinois
not easily.
Right. Illinois has been hit or miss. Indiana's been, I don't want to say phenomenal because they just lost, but they've played really well. The game's at home. They're going to come out they're going to be pissed that they lost to Northwestern, and I think they'll take care of business on Saturday.
Absolutely. And as we listed, lots of other Big Ten games going on throughout the day, starting at noon all the way on Saturday through 9 o'clock. And then Sunday, you've got 3 more games with Ohio State at Purdue. Maryland travels to Nebraska. Iowa at Northwestern. That'll be an interesting game to catch and follow. Let's see. Checking out the Big Ten standings right now. Of course, Purdue leading the way, even though they have lost their last 2 games back-to-back. And 3 out of their last 4, by the way, I believe.
Yep, all 3 on the road.
So you got that going for you, which is nice. All alone in second place now, Northwestern at 10-5. Of course, Indiana falls into a 1-2-3-way tie with Maryland and Iowa for 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot. And Illinois is right behind them, 5th, 6th. So this is an important game for Indiana as they'll take on the Illini. The Illini needs this as well. As these teams that are in the bottom of the Big Ten section, they're starting to fight for that tourney seed area because it's getting a little tough for them.
Yeah, I mean, you won at least 1 bye in the Big Ten tournament, right? So you don't have to play on Wednesday. That's the goal for those 4 teams. I mean, Minnesota secured their spot down there, but I think there's still some of it. 2 through 10 is crazy.
What's that?
2 through 10 is crazy in the standings.
Oh, yeah,
it's nuts.
Absolutely. Well, it's all crazy, but I'm still wondering how many teams are going to end up making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was pretty secure at 9, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. We'll see. I'm thinking it's just going to be 8 teams from the Big Ten this year now, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to hit that 9 number because Wisconsin, Michigan, Penn State, those 3 they're going to have to do a lot of work in the last couple weeks to get in.
Well, I can't thank everybody enough. As always, of course, thanks to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Thanks to Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Of course, Dustin Schutte for always being here. Of course, thanks, RT, our buddy, RC, for sitting in today for us as well. And, of course, nobody but you guys. Without you, no reason for us to be here. We appreciate you so much. We'll see you again on Monday for sure. And until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
All right, fellas. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast. I got to get to work. Have a great weekend.
All righty. You too. Take care.
Thank you. You too, buddy. Good seeing you.
You too.